Okay, so let's dive into making some calculations. And these calculations we can do in many different places. And for example, if we go back to our data source, we can see that in our original data source, we have two columns here, casual and registered. Now, this represents the total count here. You can see once we have unioned it, and this is the count of each one of the writers. Now, of course, we can just right click that and rename that total. But let me just show you how to make a new column here. So what we can do, we can click into this, and then you can see it says create a calculated field. And we can say, okay, we want a total. And that total is going to be registered plus that casual column. And you can see that easily makes a new total. Now we have two of those columns. Now we don't need to, but I just want to show you how you are able to do that. And we also going to look at table calculations also. So we can also quickly bring in another sheet by clicking the little sheet here. And we know we have a union where we have our holidays. So now we can bring in that holiday from our holiday table. So I'm going to just click that. And I can bring in that total from here. And you can see that we have all of these particular holidays. And then we have this null here. So we can fix that by using another calculation. So I am going to go back to the data source for this calculation, and I'm going to go over to our holiday row here. So we see New Year's, and then we have null values because we did a left join. So we're bringing back nulls if it doesn't match from this data set. And if we hover over that data set, the union data set, you can see that it's made up of 3 tables. So once you're at that holiday, I'm going to right click and then I'm going to create calculated field. Now I want to be able to create a new column. I'm just going to call it holidays because this is holiday. And I'm going to use the if statement. So I'm going to say if is null. So now I'm using the function if null. And if it is null, it's going to give back a true. So if the holiday column is null, we know that's not a holiday. So we want to bring back a normal day. And I'm going to put that in parentheses, normal day. Else, give me the holiday column. The holiday with capitals. And then we can end this here. Now you can see the calculation is valid, and if I apply it, we'll have a new column called holidays and hit OK. And then if I go back over, we should have our new column called holidays, and you see for those null values, we have the normal day. If I go back over to my sheet and I bring out holiday and I bring in holidays, voila, we have a normal day. And now we can see the average instead of the sum of the writers for each of those particular periods. So I would go down to sum and click average. So now we can see the average writer for those holidays compared to a normal day. So because we have this nice table here, I might also want to see the sum next to that average. So I'm going to get the total again. I'm just going to double click it. And now that you see we have total. Now, this number may have some significance to our viewer, but what we can do is we can right click that sum and then we can do some quick table calculations. So we can add a table calculation or we can use one of the quick ones. I am just going to get a percent of total, and that will give us the percent of total for our normal day versus our regular value. So we can see that 95% of our riders by volume come on normal days, and we have some percentages here, which may be something we can use later. But I just wanted to show you how to do a quick table calculation, and we will dive into these. Also, later on, see if I bring registered there, we can see registered versus our casual rider if I bring that in. Now, the only issue with that is I would love to be able to create one feature here or a column that is not a numerical value but a categorical value. And the reason we may want to do this is because we may want to do things like if we created a new sheet here, and we can also name these sheets. I'm going to call this my line chart. And I'm going to create a date time here. And I am going to bring in the count. And I'm going to turn that into a line chart. And then from that line chart, I'm just going to break that hierarchy all the way down till we have a count by day. So you can see, oh, well, we're at week, and now we're at day. Now you can see how ragged that looks. In order to eliminate how ragged that looks, I want to use another table calculation. So I am going to right-click this and go down to quick table calculation, and I'm going to create a moving average. And you can see from here, you can see this delta sign, which means there is a table calculation with a moving average. And we can see that has gotten much smoother, but we can alter that table calculation by clicking it in, and then you can see we have the average sum with a 2-day moving average because it's taking the past 2 days and averaging them up and nothing forward. So I'm going to take the past 24 days. So if you highlight that start, so if we start from 24 days back to the current end date, which is now, and I hit enter, wow, look how smooth that becomes. Now, I do have two options here. This is the total count. Of course, we could use a different metric, such as our registered riders and our casual riders, but I'm going to show you how to create a column here where we can do that by pivoting our original data. So that's showing you your moving average there that we can bring in later to our calculation. And you can see that's a window average. If you know anything about averages, window just means what time frame that you are dealing with, similar to what you see in SQL. So we'll look at pivoting our data right after this. So now you can see that this line, which is our Windows function, which is our running average here, looks a bit different. And the reason mine looks different is because I just wanted to give you a walkthrough. So in this section here, we have connection that's live and an extract. So if you want to refresh that data, you would just click into this and it will refresh that data set. And I refreshed mine because I didn't have enough RAM in my PC and it wasn't loading all the data. So now it is. So you should be seeing somewhat of a shape like that. So that'll give you a way, if you have any values that are not matching up, just go over to that data source and then do the refresh. So now let me show you how to pivot your data. So here we are. We have our bike share data set here. And what I want to do is go back over and look at these two columns. Now I want to be able to filter by those two columns. However, those two columns are now without any categorical features. So they're not a dimension. These are actually measures. So I want to switch them to a dimension where each line is representative of registered or casual. So I'm going to highlight both of these, and then I'm going to right click. I'm going to go down to pivot. Now this is going to mess up a whole lot of things, and we can go and fix this, don't worry. So you see casual is here, and there's an issue. Registered is here, and this is also, total is also gone. So I'm going to eliminate those columns just by highlighting them and click delete. And you can see it says, oh, you have a problem. Sheet 1 and 2 are being affected because you deleted values. Okay, I understand. I also going to delete, the total was deleted. Now, what I want to bring your attention to is now we have registered and casual. And then we still have that correct count of 16. So it's just broken down by 3 and 13. Now that count is not going to be correct unless we add the 2, because you see it's duplicated here. But we don't have to use that value. We can use the value that we create here. So I'm going to rename this total. And then I'm going to eliminate that count column later because I just want to use that as a reference. So now I'm going to go back to sheet 1, and we know that is having issues. So you can see what we had before is now gone, the measure names. But what we can do is, I believe on this column, we just had the date time. So I'm going to remove that and remove this, and I'm just going to click date time, and then I can get my total here that we replaced. Should be here, and you can see that we have those 2 values there. Now you can see my values are different from before because I had to update the data and it wasn't coming through, but it still equals our total amount there that we had before. So I'm going to go back over, and now we have our measure names. We have holidays, and I'm going to get rid of those measure values. And then I'm going to bring in my total now. And now you can see we are back in business. Next, I'm going to my line chart, which should be okay, but let's see that it's using the count, and we know it might be double counting. So let's use our total. And then we hit that, and should be pretty much similar. Now, since we have those 2 dimensions, which are called at the moment pivot field names, and I'll just show you in the data set. You can see if I go back over to pivot field names, we have 3 for casual and 13 for registered, and then our count here is 16. I know we don't no longer need this, so I'm going. So I want to show you can add that data to the pivot, so I'm going to hit add to pivot. And I'll show you what happens here is that we'll get the count in the pivot. So this is going to ensure that we have the correct number there, but it can get kind of messy because you can see you're adding extra values to that total. So what you can do is now that we have this column, we can go back up to the top and we can add a filter. So I'm going to add a filter, add, and I'm going to go to that pivot table where it says total. And then I'm going to go to total. And then I am going to say, oops, not total. I want to go to the values, my mistake. So I want to go to add, and I want to go, I think it's still called pivot field names. And then I just want to bring in casual and registered and hit OK. And now you can see all we have is casual and registered. Now if we go back over to that line chart, we already have our total, so we should be in OK shape. So now that we have that pivot field name, we can rename that. Let's call it writer type, maybe. And we can take that dimension and pull it over, and it will split our value. So now you can see the benefit of having that. So let's start building some visuals where we can answer some of the questions that would be around this writer type. Okay, so I'm going to just go to the next visual, which is sheet 4, and I'm going to create a heat map. All right, so what we want to be able to do is get our date time value, and what we want to be able to do is look at the day of week, but first we have to see if we have that. So we can see we have month and we have week, but we don't have day of week, but we do have hour. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these and just pull them out. And we do have hour, and I think I want hour on the axis here as like an index, and I'm going to put days a week here. So we know we don't have that day of week value, so maybe if I pull that over here and then I go to custom, and then I go to the date value, date part, and then I can maybe get the weekdays here. And then I hit OK. And then you can see we get weekdays. I'm going to take that and bring it back up, and boom, we have the weekdays. So now that we have the weekdays, we can bring in that value of that total in here. But now I don't really like it like this because it doesn't look like a heat map. And we do have some nulls here, so let's eliminate that. We're going to exclude the nulls because we just want Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Even though we chose weekday, our data set doesn't have that weekday value in it. It might be starting from a different part of the week. So we can see that Thursday is missing. So I am going to put a new calculation here. Date, it's probably easier to do this here. So I'm going to remove that out. And I'm going to go here and put a new calculation so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to do date name. And then the date part, I'm going to go weekday. And here I'm going to do the date. Let's do date time so we get all of the values. And then I am going to put the start of the week, Sunday. And let's make sure this is single quotation. And this is weekday like this, I believe. And then Sunday. And there we go. So that fixed our issue. We can remove this from the rows. And we can bring this down to rows. And now we can bring this out. And then we can bring the total back in. We'll bring that back up to our columns here. And then now we can bring in that hour that we want. So I'm going to bring that down. And then I am just going to say I only want the hour. So now we have all those values that we want. And we have our Thursday because our date is starting on Monday. So I don't like it like this. We can definitely use a different visual. So if I click on color and I bring in the sum on color here, you can see what happens. But if I remove the, the lettering here, now we have a heat map. And that heat map shows us where the writers are kind of aggregating. We can see 8 p.m. and about 5 p.m. we're getting the most writers. So we can customize this a little bit more later, but you can see you can have a heat map here. And you don't have to restrict yourself to these colors. You can see you can edit the color and change how it is being situated. So you can see use step if you want. If I put apply, you can see it changes a bit. We can definitely change the color back to something different. For example, we could go with a green and go to OK. And then we can use different color steps here for our colors. And this goes all the way to white, you see. So if I hit apply, you can see that heat map changes. I am going to just take it back to the original and we can play around with it later. So let's continue on. We have our line chart, heat map. Let's just quickly put together a pie chart. So we create a new sheet. And what we're going to do, since we have that new dimension that we created, I'm just going to put pie chart here. And then I am going to get the variable that I want, which is the writer type. And then I'm going to get the total. And then you can see that split up by casual and registered. And I just turn that into a pie chart. Now, you might be asking, hey, why are we building all these individual sheets for our charting? And there is a reason, so let me change this to holiday. What we do is when we have these sheets, we can build a dashboard. So I'm going to show you the new dashboard by clicking that. So you click new dashboard, and now you have some options here. So let's review them. In the bottom left here where it says objects, you are able to add objects to your dashboard. For example, we can add text, we can add any type of images, and then we can add them as a tile, which automatically brings them in, and as floating. So let me just give you an idea. If we wanted to bring in a heat map, we would double click that and bring that in, and you can see that it is there. Now, if I bring in the line chart, and you can see it allows us to put it somewhere as a tile. So I can put it there. Of course, we can adjust the sizing of the dashboard with this section here that says size. That gives you how you would actually change the different sizes. And if we wanted to bring text in, you see you would have to fit it as a tile. Now, the other option is to use floating. So you can see I can choose floating, and I can bring in that pie chart, and I can just put it anywhere I want. Now, there are advantages of building a dashboard like this. We can also change the interaction. For example, if I wanted to use this pie chart as a filter on that dashboard, you can see if I click it, it will change the images on that dashboard. It's messy at the moment, but you can see the advantages of doing this. Also, we can also change the background of the dashboard, but I wanted to give you kind of how dashboards are created in Tableau. We would definitely need to reimagine how we want this to look like. I'm going to show you a final dashboard that we've created, and then we'll build back in reverse so you know that I have put this together and have the structure that you need to put it together.